Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy here. 4 nerds, by nerds, hanging out with this guy.
I'm Ted.
And today we're going to do another GM 911, this time from Will Gordon. And basically he wants some help with incorporating backstory and as well as doing episodic adventures opposed to a long campaign arc.
Before we get into that, though, why don't you guys jump down to the description below, sign up for the newsletter. It's a great way to get weekly tips delivered straight to your inbox, as well as how to game with us.
So this one's actually kind of straightforward and easy. He does bring up the point that we talk about, campaigns a lot, but a campaign really only is a series of adventures that string along together to form one purpose, really.
Right, and really, you can have an episodic adventure that is linked to an overarching campaign, or you can have an episodic adventure that is just, little one shots.
Yeah.
And really, Will, it's going to come down to what do you want to have. It doesn't really matter whether everyone shows up to every single session, as long as you have just cause of, well, what is that character doing while everyone else is off doing this other thing.
Could be anything.
And it really can be. We've had, back in the day, I used to run games where I would refuse to DM if everyone didn't show up. Because I hated what is this guy doing,
right,
while everyone else is moving on. But with our Griffin Gaff game, I tend to have the games always, start and end in Griffin Gaff. And it might be, the session is a single day, or the session might be weeks. But, Griffin Gaff is always there, other than I think one session where I ended, out in the wilderness. But, if you end in a specific location, then you can always say, well, all right, well, you guys are adventurers part-time and you're doing this other thing, the rest of the time.
Or you just have different agendas, so sometimes you have this other thing to take care of.
So, it's all right, well, you could have a literal mini quest in between adventures that's just filler. You can have things that I sat and did nothing. I researched, or I, went out and, did this other, boring thing here, or I worked a day job,
Yeah. I missed the bus. I didn't make it on time.
So in his world, he wants to do these episodic adventures so that, this guy's going to make it this week, but not next. So you can just do that. And if you're going to explore, the campaign world he's playing in, he wants to do things that are, in a world with floating islands, and each island has its own different level of technology and magic
theme,
and a theme. So you could be all right, well, what is your reason for going off and exploring, these different islands? Are the players seeking something in specific? Are they being quested, by a monarch or matriarch to go off explore these lands? And once you get there, well, all right, the adventure starts. And
so for this type of adventure, especially he also mentioned he's a new DM and they're in high school, so cool. It's good to see the next generation coming up, bringing the hobby. One of the easiest things to do is just come up with a mechanism, whether they all belong to the same guild, whether they all have the same patron, or something along those lines that connects the characters and is the quest giver. Especially if you got total buy-in from players, no one's going to be a douche and give you a hard time, and they're all on board with this, right? So this is the quest, this is what we need to do, and you make it so everything kind of you can wrap it up in one session, then you never have to worry about people being there or not being there. And which this will lend itself to is actually incorporating those backstories later on, because if the same group always gets sent out together, they should start building relationships and bonds to each other.
Right. So that means when, the dwarf brewer decides, what, it's always been my goal to, brew this unique ale, and it requires the specific ingredient that only grows this time of year in the moonlight over on this island here. Would you guys be willing to, go with me on this quest, because supposedly there's this, Oni that protects this garden, and it's too much for me to handle alone. So when you've built that camaraderie, it gives the characters reason to be able to say, you know what? Yeah, you stood, at my back, at that dungeon 3 years ago, so I will gladly aid you in your quest.
Yeah, there's that, and then also like as a group, maybe they're starting to form, their own kind of like renown, and so others will also seek them out and want to hire them or want something they have acquired. There's tons of ways for their backstories to now come into play. Maybe the warlock that's trying to figure out how his bargain that he struck is actually structured, has a problem and needs help with something, or his patron has basically tasked him to do something, and if he doesn't complete the task, bad things will happen. So he's got to like recruit the players either knowingly or unknowingly to help him do this thing for his patron. I think it's a fiendish pack, so it's probably something bad.
Well, he doesn't even know all the different things he's got to do to fulfill his contract. So
Yeah.
it's definitely open for all the realms that you want there.
Yeah, or maybe the crazy diviner wizard that has a flying seahorse as a mount and familiar.
As a familiar.
Yeah, as a familiar. I thought he wrote it too as a mount. Maybe not. Either way, right? Well, maybe a certain time of year or every so many years they have to go to some kind of like spawning grounds or something, and fulfill their instinctual needs, because if they don't, maybe they start going crazy or madness takes them, or it'll run off, or something bad will happen, and so it could really be like just taking the wizard to escort his familiar to do his thing, which could also be kind of hilarious and funny.
That would be funny, especially if they're like, Salmon, where, the end result is they go there and die. So he's got
way to kill the mood, Ted.
Well, what I'm saying is they could, it could be an opportunity for, there to be like the next generation, he gets the next generation.
He gets the new one.
He gets the new one. It's more powerful and it unlocks other abilities, and an idea just to throw out there.
That's an upgrade. I know you're traumatized and all because you just lost your little helper friend, but here's a consolation prize.
Yeah, well, what if for some reason this one winds up having the memories of his sire, and so now like the connections are still there, but the emotion of I still lost a friend at the same time becomes a nice little.
Well, they are magical flying seahorses, so maybe it is something like that you could do. But the point is, like, there's tons of ways to connect backstory, and from the episodic adventure path you're trying to create right now. You don't have to do it right away. You can do it as the game progresses, things pop up.
I actually find that, episodic, it's easier to work on a backstory thing than it is over a huge arcing story, because, like, it's like, all right, well, you're literally planning session to session. What am I going to do? All right, well, tonight we're going to go with George's story. Next week we'll throw up something random, and then it's going to be Fred's story.
Yeah, and the other thing too is, like, if you're doing a big overarching campaign, and you're tying character backstories into it, then those characters become a lot more important to the story. So if for whatever reason the player stops coming and the character dies, like, it can definitely sidetrack things and make you have to make some changes in what you had originally planned.
I agree. So, what do you guys think? Do you have any advice for Will, offering linking character backstories and episodic adventures? Put your thoughts and feelings down in the comments below. While you're at it, like, share, even subscribe.
You can follow us on Instagram.
So until next time, stay nerdy.